Why is it happening? Why is it so exponentially increasing? And then there's almost the understanding in the sort of medical conventional circles is we just treat the symptoms and we treat it and we don't try and prevent it.
Yeah. Well, if we go back to the Flexner report here in the United States, Andrew Carnegie funded that to create, to shut down a lot of the medical schools that were existing in the United States, to create this biomedical standard that was to support the development of pharmaceuticals, which is sort of interesting. He was developing aspirin and the earliest pharmaceuticals, and created a structure for randomized controlled trials that would be the backbone of understanding physiology. So we've learned a lot, understanding physiology to interrupt a particular step to treat a disease symptom. We've learned a lot, but we forgot that life is incredibly complicated, that our metabolic pathways are incredibly complicated with checks and balances to keep life going. And drugs that act on one molecular pathway will not restore health. They may suppress a particular symptom, but they won't restore balanced physiology.
Okay.
Our innate, when the cells perceive a threat, so damage to a cell because of infection, because of heat or cold stress, chemical stress, physical stress, because I overtrained, the cell is damaged. And if the cell leaks some of the innards, so some of the molecules that live inside the cell escape and get out of the cell. Those molecular compounds are now called damaged associated molecular patterns. They interact with the cell membranes of neighboring cells who realize, uh-oh, my sister and brother are in trouble. I got to call in for the reinforcements. So they change gene expression and activate chemokine to call in the immune cells that will release all of these cytokines to kill the infection, to dissolve the damaged tissues, and so they can build better, healthier cells in the replacement. So now the question comes back, why is that damage occurring? And we understand that there are a variety of insults that can happen. Infections can happen, cold stress, physical stress can happen. But if these insults are happening all of the time, because we have a very toxic, poisoned environment, because we've been eating a terrible diet, and I don't have the building blocks to build my cells, because I have eaten a terrible diet or overused antibiotics, so I have the wrong bacterial species and yeast species growing in my gut, because I don't have enough sleep at night, I've disrupted my circadian rhythm, because I hate my job, because I hate my spouse, because my child has a severe health challenge that I am so frightened and worried about, because my business is failing, because I've lost my job. Yeah. So there all of these factors can disrupt my biochemical processes and trigger that excessive inflammation response.
Okay, right. Now we're going to talk about the Wahls protocol, but what is the percentage that is dependent on people's lifestyle? In other words, what are the epigenetic expressions that are so important? Because we still have this genetic dogma that it's in your genes and it's not up to you. What is your percentage that is up to the person, which decides whether they get a chronic disease or they get an autoimmune disease?
So for MS, we have about 200, 300 different genes that have been identified as increasing the risk. And there's only a handful of them where there's really substantial risk. For most of these individual genes, the increased risk is about 2%. Sort of collectively, you probably have a couple genes. And so that genetic risk in general, even if you have identical twins, so you have the exact same genes,